week in Army football, and a lot to talk about as we get set for homecoming weekend at West Point coming up on Saturday. The Black Knights taking on Temple, a noon kick time, airtime across the Army Sports Network at 10 a.m. with the Army Football Tailgate Show. That game's going to be a lot of fun, especially since Army comes in off a victory. Biggest win of the season, biggest game of the year so far, 20-17 on the final play on the road at Air Force on Saturday. It was Dawson Jones with a 27-yard field goal as time expired, and the Black Knights defeated the Falcons for the third straight year. Let's welcome to This Week in Army Football, the star of our show, Jeff Monken. Jeff, welcome. Head coach of the Black Knights, third straight win over Air Force, and I'll tell you what a ball game. Just a great football game, some tense moments, some ups and downs, and just being out there, what a special outcome that was.
It was a great game, and so proud of our guys. Can we first talk about
Yes.
Army women's basketball getting the victory in the opener tonight? Man, awesome.
And, she's the women's basketball coach, but also an enormous fan of This Week in Army football.
She and her staff are here every week, so they're faithful.
And when they're not here, they apologize that a practice went long. Katie Custer, the first-year Army women's basketball coach, 86-50 over Pace up at Crystal Arena, part of a women's-men's basketball doubleheader. The men taking on SUNY Maritime coming up at 8 o'clock. Congratulations, Katie Custer. What a victory for Army women's basketball.
Fantastic. We'll give them a pass for not making the show tonight after that victory.
We will give them a pass, and Katie's so deserving, and great offseason for her and her first game, first time on the sidelines at West Point. A victory. But, Jeff, what a game you're coming off on Saturday against Air Force. And there was so much emotion, from the time we flew out there on Thursday, just leading into the game. And, of course, the days leading up to the Air Force game. You come in off a bye week. Air Force was coming off a bye week. A tight game back and forth. A big play late. Dawson Jones wins it. And how about Dawson Jones and the moments he's been in his first year as a kicker for this team, and the game-winning field goal as time ran out?
Oh, there were a lot of great plays and a lot of great moments in the game. And as you mentioned, there is a lot of emotion that goes into these academy rivals and our rivalry games. And our guys were charged up. Their guys were charged up. It's going to be that way every time we play. But that's not what wins the games. What wins the games is execution of our assignment and fundamentals. And fortunately, we did a really good job of that on Saturday. And our guys played hard. They played well. We tackled well on defense. We got off of blocks. We made some plays to get some turnovers. And, all of those, those turnovers were big. And though we didn't get points off every single one of them, they were all really big plays and made a huge difference in the game. Offensively, just a slugfest. There was a point there in the third quarter. We went 3 and out. And I started scratching my head. I'm like, I know how Kansas State felt when we were holding the ball hostage. We ran 3 plays in the third quarter, and then answered when we needed to. They had the long drive to start the third quarter. Did not score. We went 3 and out. They took it back down and scored a touchdown on the last play or I guess just before the fourth quarter kicked off. The last play of the third quarter, we took over and just methodically went down there and got back up by a touchdown, which was a huge drive for us. And at a point there, I thought it was going to end like that, and it didn't turn out that way. They made some plays at the end, and we came up short on that fourth down, and our guys just kept fighting and kept gutting it out. And what a big play. Kale Helms hitting Brady Anderson right down the middle, and then a clutch field goal to walk in there. And as you said, a rookie kicker to hit that field goal. But probably the bigger one was the 44-yarder from the right hash. You think back to the Tarleton game, and it was almost an identical kick to that one in the opener. And he missed that one and came back and made this one. And what was, that's the biggest game of the year, obviously the biggest victory of the year so far.
Now, we'll talk about all the elements to this game. Of course, the special teams, Dawson Jones, also Cooper Allen and Owen Walter, part of the 3-pronged field goal unit. James Wagenseller dropping a punt inside the 5-yard line. Jabril Williams doing a great job downing that one. Your offense, Kale Helms ran the ball and threw the ball. Probably his most balanced game we've seen this season. And the big catches by Brady Anderson, Noah Short. But just from watching this game, your defense, this was the defense's game. Colin Madison, Caleb Fortner, Andon Thomas. How about the game Casey Larkin had? Him and Gavin Shields coming up with key interceptions. Cole Seawright forcing the fumble, recovered by DeShantes Gray. That unit, I felt coming in, had a fair amount of pressure with the amount of yards and points Air Force had been putting up. So take me through what the game plan was and how that unit responded against the tough opponent.
You know, I can't say enough about Nate Woody, our defensive coordinator. He just does such a great job. He's a terrific defensive coordinator, and it doesn't matter who we play. He always seems to have a great plan. He's been doing it a long time. But in the academy games, when we're playing these option, I guess you call them option teams.
But everyone's running option now.
There's very few option plays left for any of us. But Nate studies them with great intent, and he does it all year long and comes up with a plan and has just developed and tweaked this plan year in and year out, just coming up with a few new wrinkles and a few new ideas, and he gets our guys positioned to make plays, and then we just got to rely on them to do it. And fortunately, we made just enough to take care of business on Saturday, and it was a hard game to win, but as you said, for as explosive as they have been, they've been scoring a lot of points and they've been racking up a lot of yards. I think they're top 25 in scoring offense and in total offense this year, and which is really impressive. But you know, the plan that Nate had and the job that our guys did to execute that was awesome. So as you said, you know, you mentioned a lot of names. You mentioned some guys on special teams. You mentioned some guys that came up with plays on defense. A lot of those guys are veterans that have been in our program, and you know, and then there's guys sprinkled in that don't have as much experience. I mean, we got our quarterback played his butt off, and you know, he's first-time starter this year. So that you know, that it just takes time to become a veteran, a true veteran player. And Dawson Jones, he's going to get better and better the more he plays. And Brady Anderson, so guys like that. But you mentioned you know, Cooper Allen and Owen Walter and James Wagonseller, those guys have played a lot of football for us. So to have those guys in there with a you know, a young kicker, that gives him some calm, and all he's got to do is step up and do his job. He doesn't have to worry about anybody else. So it was a great win. It was a lot of fun to celebrate that one, and you know, just create some momentum going into the next one.
3 straight wins over Air Force with 3 different starting quarterbacks each of the past 3 years. And now the Army-Navy game, like it doesn't have enough meaning and emotion tied to it. It will be for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. The team that wins that game coming up in Baltimore in December will come home with that trophy. And, Jeff, I know you want it to be your squad coming away with that Commander-in-Chief's trophy when we leave M&T Bank Stadium. Jeff, not that there needs to be any emotion, but how do you then come down off of a game like this and come against a Temple team coming up on Saturday that's played very good football? They had a tough one against East Carolina last week, though they are 1 win away from bowl eligibility. One could argue they had Navy beaten before a couple of tough calls down the stretch, and they lost that game at home. How do you bottle that emotion to now being back at Michie Stadium against a very much improved Temple team?
Oh, I think what's important is we just focus on this next football game, and our guys are able to do that. We've got enough veteran players that they can compartmentalize the win on Saturday and what that might mean down the road for the future, which, you know, that's something for the future, and that's not for us to think about at the moment, today or this week. We got to concentrate on getting ready for Temple. And they do have a really good football team. They lost to Oklahoma and Georgia Tech. Both have spent time in the top 10. So really good football teams there. And you mentioned the loss to Navy and then the loss to East Carolina. And East Carolina's, you know, they're at the top of the conference race too. I mean, they're a good football team, maybe as good a defensive team as there is in the league. They're really athletic and a really impressive football team. So, you know, Temple, when they hired Casey Keeler, I immediately said that team's going to be a lot better. They're going to be tough to beat. Casey's done a great job everywhere he's been, at Delaware, Sam Houston. and now got them one win away from bowl eligibility in his first year. So it's going to be a tough ball game. They're very athletic. They did a really good job in the portal. They got some great players. They got some guys coming back from their team a year ago, and so it's back to work, and that's what we did last night. We came in on Sunday, and everybody was charged up and excited, and we congratulated everybody and handed out the game balls, and we said, okay, now it's time to put it behind us and move on, and our guys do a pretty good job of that.
Casey Keeler, a career that goes back, 4 decades at Glassboro State, then became Rowan, took them to, 5 national championship games, won FCS national championships at Delaware and at Sam Houston, led the Sam Houston transition then to FBS, won a bowl game 1 year ago, now back in the South Jersey, Philadelphia area, coaching Temple, and a lot different Temple team than the one you faced at Lincoln Financial Field last September.
No question, and we've talked to our players about that already, and and they know, they can recognize that. They're smart enough, and they know a good football team when they see one.
Coming up next will be our special guest, and Jeff, we've been lucky to have on so many of your players throughout the year when they've come off big games, and we mentioned it in the open, maybe the best all-around game, running and passing for your junior quarterback, Kale Helms.
Well, he had a great game on Saturday, and it kind of reminded me of the Kansas State game, just how confidently he played, and just his rugged toughness and how he leads just by the way he plays. Our offense seems to kind of take on his personality, and so it's been a lot of fun to see him grow and come into his own as a starting quarterback.
Kale Helms, our special guest on This Week in Army Football. When we come back in just a moment right here from the Cadet First Class Club on the Army Sports Network from Learfield. And welcome back to This Week in Army Football. Rich DeMarco joined by Army head coach Jeff Monken here at the Cadet First Class Club. Would like to thank everyone coming out to tonight's show. I know some were at the Army women's basketball game, and Katie Kuster, a victory in her first game on the Army sidelines. 86-50 over Pace. And Jeff, we talked about it in the open. Not only the Army women's basketball coach, but a big supporter of This Week in Army Football.
She is. As I said, she and her staff are here almost every week religiously, and great supporters, and they cheer, and awesome. Just her energy, I think everybody's really going to enjoy watching her teams play and watching her coach. That she's got unbelievable energy and passion for coaching and developing people.
And I sure, when Katie Kuster and her staff were watching Saturday's win over Air Force, they were cheering for the person seated to my left, the Army quarterback, nearly 100 yards rushing and through the air, more than 100 yards, including 2 big throws of 40 yards or more. A touchdown pass to Noah Short, and then the big play to Brady Anderson that set up the game-winning field goal. How about a big This Week in Army Football welcome, Black Knights junior quarterback, Kale Helms. Kale, welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This Week in Army Football. You know, we've been talking a lot this year about the carries, 38, 39, 41 carries. This game, you did it through the air as well, those 2 big throws. I know it was an emotional game, an emotional couple of weeks. How did you feel when it was over and your team came away with the victory?
Yeah, it was an awesome feeling. You know, it was a feeling like I've never felt before. You know, going in there, like I've been a part of CIC games, you know, I've been on the sideline to witness it, but to be in there in the action, it was just filled with emotion, and, you know, to go out on top and sing second for the senior class and, you know, the United States Military Academy, it meant the world, and it was a feeling I've never felt before.
Jeff, there's so much emotion in a game like this. It's charged on both sides. How is your team able to bottle that when, you know, the game begins? Because it's very easy with everything that goes on from the weeks leading to the game to get carried away, and then turning to execution. That takes real focus.
It does, and it's hard to turn it off. What we really talk about a lot, and it's up to the players. The players have to do it. Is not allowing the emotion of the game to distract us from doing our job, and that can happen. It can happen in competition. You're just so fired up. You're so charged up. You want to win so bad that you don't execute assignment and fundamentals as well as you possibly can. And sometimes guys make mistakes. Sometimes guys take bad angles, or they play the wrong gap, or they just miss an assignment because they are just so charged up and excited. And I give our guys credit. They're able to use that motivation and just have that emotion help them do their job better. And it does. When you care a lot, when it means a lot to you, it should compel you to do your very best. And I think that's what our guys do best. And they use that emotional energy to really, lift their game. So hopefully that's what happened on Saturday. Our guys seem to play pretty well.
Kale, I got to ask you about this polecat formation, I think is what it's called. When we got there Thursday to the hotel, we meet with the coordinators, and Cody Worley had told us, hey, you might see it once, you might see it twice, you might not see it at all. It's going to be a different formation. The touchdown pass comes out of it to Noah Short. It's where you send 3 linemen and a fullback to one side, a couple players to the other side. You're there with, 3, 4 players in the middle of the field snapping the football. Take me through the formation, how you worked on it in practice, and then what you saw in the game.
Yeah, you know, we had a bye week going into that game, so that gave us an extra week to prepare. You know, Air Force is pretty good up front 7, and we know we wanted to get them in space, and their secondary was young, and you know, we wanted to get Noah Short the ball in space, and, you know, that formation allowed us to get all of our playmakers in space, and, you know, to use our speed and to, you know, widen out the front 7, and, you know, that formation came out to help us a lot. You know, we made plays, and that first touchdown was out of that formation. It was just awesome to see.
And Jeff, how about that? It's the formation is really against the front 7. Noah Short got behind both safeties into the end zone. You rarely see that in football. Noah Short did it.
He did. You know, it just having 2 guys over there in space playing man coverage. They try to get the other safety from the other side of the field involved, but you know, really, it was a great throw. And Noah's fast, and he was able to get behind them. But Kale threw a really good pass. He was on top of one of their defenders. The other defender was coming from the other hash, and he threw it away from that defender. And you see at the very end of the play that Noah kind of fades toward the back of the end zone and toward their sideline away from that defender, and it's just a perfectly thrown ball, and fortunately we made the play, and it was obviously a big play in the game. So it's the first time we got into that formation, and it's really different, and obviously something they didn't have a chance to work on, and it paid off on the first play.
Kale, let's now fast forward toward the end of the game, of course, and you forced the fumble, right, from Air Force's driving to potentially tie the game. Seawright comes in on the blind side, and Deshaunte's great for Deshaunte's Graves. Just struggled with injuries, it seems, so much in his career with that big fumble recovery. Jeff Monken never lacks confidence in his offense. You go forward on 4th down. Thought you were going to get it if Peyton Zadroik didn't just get a piece of your leg. What happened on that play?
Yeah, that defensive lineman made a great play. But like I said after the game, that's unacceptable. On 4th and 1, it should be our coaches versus there, and I don't think you'll ever see us go out there again and not get it. We learned from it, and the positive was seeing us go back on the field, a couple minutes later, and then putting a well together drive to give us the chance to kick up through the uprights. But when it's 4th and 1, we got to go out there and dominate the line of scrimmage, and, I got to pick my feet up and not allow an arm tackle to bring me down.
Jeff, now the confidence that you have in your team, and it's 2 straight wins over Air Force, but you're on the road. It's a hostile crowd and environment. You don't convert on the 4th down. Air Force goes and ties the game. Every bit of a team might say, hey, let's just pack it in and take it into overtime, right? What was the thought when you got the ball back there to really refocus or make sure this team stays focused to then go down the field to try and win?
Well, we had all of our timeouts, and there was plenty of time. So really anything 30 seconds or more is enough to drive the field. If we take over the ball after a kickoff at the 25-yard line, 30 seconds or more is enough time with 3 timeouts to get it down to the other end and kick a field goal. And we didn't need all that time, but that was the thing with the 4th down play. And a lot of people wonder why wouldn't you punt there? Well, if you punt, it gives you one pathway to victory. So you punt, and then you got to try to go stop them. And they're going to have to drive the field, which could take all of the time off of the clock, what's left of it in the second half. And the way they move the ball all this season, I mean, they've been very explosive and have been in the same situation many times this year and come up with plays and scored touchdowns. And so you saw in the first half, we scored,
yep.
and they took it right back down and had a chance to kick a field goal. So we didn't want to allow them to do that. So you give yourself 3 chances or 3 pathways to victory. You make the first down, we run the clock out, take a knee, hand it to the official, we walk off the field. If they stop us, then we turn the ball over to them, which we did. Now, it's not a rule that they got to score. We could have stopped them,
yep.
And we didn't. So that would have been another way to a pathway to victory. We stop them there, and we go back out with the offense and take a knee. The third way is the way we did it. We turned it over. They scored a touchdown, not ideal, but there's enough time left on the clock at that point with our 3 timeouts to drive down and kick a field goal. And so that's the whole premise of going for it there and just making a decision that gives us the best pathway to victory.
Before I get into the pass to Brady Anderson, which put you in the red zone and you were able to set up for the field goal, Kale, what was the target yard line you were looking to get to for Dawson Jones' range?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because before going out there, we had like a player assistant tell me that Dawson was making from like 62 in warm-up. So
and he had the win there in that 4th quarter too.
So that definitely boosted my confidence. I think in practice we like to get to the 35-30 every time we go 1 minute scenario in practice. So that was just my thought and my goal. But I heard he was good in warm-ups and we had the wind to our back. And I just was thinking about going out there giving him a chance. I knew he was going to put it right through the uprights, and I just knew if we could get to the 35-30, we'd be good. But thankfully we got up either closer.
And you did about 20 yards better. Take me through the 40-yard pass to Brady Anderson that set you up inside the 15-yard line.
Yeah, so we went out there with 1 minute and 26 seconds left and 2 timeouts. So we were able to do what we do, and that's run the ball. And we were successful doing it. Noah made a great play on 1st and 10, got out of bounds. So, I was feeling even more confident, and the team was as well. Ran the ball some more, went for it on 4th and 1 and got it through a QB sneak. And then we, Coach Worley's wanted to take a shot. They were playing man, and they had that backside safety roll down in the box, and we had a good play fake, and the O-line just, did a great job pass protecting, and Brady Anderson, beat his man, and he got separation. He just came down with the ball, and it was just an awesome executed play.
We saw it on the TV broadcast. After the game, there's Jeff Monken at midfield, turns to you and gives you a big hug. What was going through your mind in that moment? What were the emotions when you embraced your head coach after, for you, Kale, the biggest, most emotional victory of your career?
Yeah, it was my freshman year. We were on the field warming up for Navy, and he just hugged me and just said how he was proud that I was a part of his team and how I was going to win us games like this. And it was just kind of a moment of like, it was like going back and forth, and I was like, you told me this, and it was also me telling him I told you so, and it was just filled with emotion. It was a great feeling, and it's something I won't forget.
Jeff, what was it like remembering back to that Kale's freshman year, and then also recruiting Kale Helms out of Tomball, Texas?
Well, I remember all those moments. I remember going to Tomball High School and meeting with him in the principal's office. He and Tyler Lee were both there, both committed in the same class. And I remember when he was a freshman, we knew that Kale was going to be a good quarterback. He's tough, he's competitive, he's a winner. And guys like that can lead your football team and be your quarterback. And I remember telling him, you're going to win a lot of football games for us. You're going to win these CIC games for us. And after the game on Saturday, he came up and grabbed me, gave me a big hug, and he said, I told you I was going to win you some games like this. And so he did. And what a great victory, and so thrilled for him and all of his teammates. And, the players are the ones that do it. The players got to go make the plays, and they did that on Saturday, so it was a great win. Let's keep them coming.
And, Kale, that had to be a very easy game for you. You had about half the amount of carries you usually do. Usually you're up around 40 carries, taking a ton of punishment. What did it mean for you to be able to diversify maybe as well as you've done all season?
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as many carries as Kansas State or Tulane, and it was awesome, for guys like Brick Bartosh to get in there and execute and, make great explosive plays. Noah Short, taking the load off me and, executing the passing game. It was awesome. I'm not going to lie, though. I think, it's a CIC game, and I had less carries, but I am feeling it a little bit more today than regularly. They were bringing it. But, it was just awesome, and it was a great team effort.
And now you have Temple coming up on Saturday, a sold-out crowd. That game is sold out, Army and Temple. Tickets still left for Army's final regular season home game, November 22nd against Tulsa. 877-TIX-ARMY, ArmyGameDay.com. How excited is it now? You come off that emotional win, right? It's going to be a sold-out, packed house on Saturday against the Temple team. And Jeff Monken said in our first segment, a lot different than the one you guys saw last September.
Yeah, they're a great team. They're well coached, and we enjoyed that big win Saturday, but we got back to work yesterday, and we're focused on Temple. The goal and the job is to go 1-0 this week. They got good players, and it's going to be a good game, and we'll be ready to go.
Well, Kel, we appreciate you spending some time. I don't think he's a junior, right? So not his last appearance on This Week in Army Football, right? Look forward to having you at least another time next year. Cal, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the victory over Air Force. Best of luck this week leading into Temple.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Kale Helms, Army junior quarterback, joining us here on This Week in Army Football. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Black Knights with head coach Jeff Monken. You're watching This Week in Army Football right here on the Army Sports Network from Learfield. And welcome back to This Week in Army Football. FW Webb for plumbing, heating, HVAC, refrigeration, pipe, valves, fittings, and more. With extensive inventory, personalized service, over 100 locations, and a fleet of trucks across the Northeast. Visit fwweb.com for a location near you. Rolling right along, Rich DeMarco, Army head coach Jeff Monken here on This Week in Army Football. I'd like to thank everyone here at the Cadet First Class Club. We're really in like the halftime of the Army men's women's basketball doubleheader. The Army women victorious over Pace 86-50. Katie Kuster, a victory in her first game as Army women's basketball head coach, and the men's team taking on SUNY Maritime at the top of the hour. Well, Jeff, our special guest, Kale Helms, what a tremendous leader, and just someone who, you know, when you're talking to him, he has it all under control, right? He can take it play by play through that game against the Air Force, what he was thinking and how big it was. And it was really great to hear from him, just his mindset in that final drive, everything from knowing what the student coach had told him about what Dawson Jones was hitting from before the game to where he needed to be and keep everything just together. That's what you want out of a quarterback.
For sure. And he's just gotten better at that as the season's gone along. It's hard to do that when you first go into the game and you're the quarterback and your heart's racing and it's emotional and you want to perform so well. But the more he plays, just as everybody, the more they play, the better they get, and the more they handle the situations. And you know that last scenario where we were able to make that throw and go out and kick the field goal, and we practice that every week and a couple of times a week, offense and defense, and put our guys in different situations. So our guys have handled it really well. In the last 4 games in a row, whether it be at the end of a half, in this case at the end of a game, we've had to execute a 1-minute drill, and we've gotten points 4 weeks in a row off of that drill. So it's paying off for us, and having Kale out there and the confidence he's gained over the last few weeks, that's why we were able to make the plays that we did.
We mentioned a lot of players in the outset who had a big part in this game. I want to focus on one position in particular, and that's your running back, your fullback spot. And Kale mentioned the play of Briggs Bartosh. He had 11 carries, more than 70 yards, and his speed really is something you don't generally see a lot from that position. How important was Briggs in this game? And maybe a bigger picture question, how do you make your decisions on what the defense is going to play? Which of your fullbacks, they all do so many different things, is going to get the majority of the carries?
It's great to see Briggs bursting onto the scene here in his sophomore year. You know, he's a guy that is super talented. He's very fast, had great track times in high school, and we've been really excited about him. And he's just gained a lot of confidence through practice and getting some reps here and there as we've gone through the first half of the season. And Saturday, I mean, we knew that we were going to hand him the ball and give him some opportunities. He can make a difference for us. So he did a great job, broke out of there on that one zone play, went down our sideline, and then had another run in the same drive. And he's doing a really good job without the football as well, blocking and pass protecting, and so becoming a complete player. Just in terms of the guys at that position and how we use them, they're all good players in their own way. They all have things that they do well, and a lot of it is situational. We've got to be careful that we don't have certain guys in to run the ball and certain guys in to pass protect and those kinds of things. And our opponents are looking for those tendencies, and so we try not to create tendencies and utilize the guys that we have and use them in all the different ways that they need to help us. And so on that last pass play, a great example is Hayden Reed. So he carried the ball on Saturday and ran the ball a few times, and on the last pass play down to Brady Anderson down the middle, he's in there in pass protection, does a great job against the defensive end, and helped on that pass pro so that Kale had a really nice pocket to throw the football. So those guys are really important in a lot of ways, not just running the football.
And I got to ask you about a fullback we saw for the first time, someone a lot in preseason. We saw him under center as one of your quarterbacks, God's Power Wawihe, and 2 carries, 8 yards, and I'll tell you, look at him, and that's the future. It looks like you feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more of him as the weeks and the years go on.
Well, he's got a great name, and he's a really good athlete. He's a guy that was playing quarterback for us, played quarterback at our prep school, was a quarterback all through preseason camp. And he just wasn't going to beat out these veteran guys. But we saw just how dynamic he is, and made a move. Said, "Hey, look, why don't you come over and learn to take a hand off and run the zone play and run the power play?" And so it's been several weeks that we've been working him at this position. And when we went to Tulane, we really had an intention to put him into the game, and the time wasn't right. But over the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks to prepare for Air Force, we made a conscious decision. We are going to put this guy in the game. We're going to hand him the ball and see what he does with it. And that's really good for him to have an opportunity to do that and get that experience. And he probably had butterflies in his stomach, and your first college play, and you're a freshman. That's a big moment. But he'll be way more than ready the next time, and we'll hand him the ball again. And he's a good player without the ball. He does a really good job blocking. He does a good job on the perimeter, and so he was in for some of those plays as well. So I'm excited about his future, and he very well may end up playing quarterback again for us. But this is good experience for him.
And he moved the pile in that 7-yard run. That was great to see. Lots more to come from God's Power Wawehe. When we come back, more Army football with head coach Jeff Monken here on This Week in Army Football across the Army Sports Network from Learfield. And welcome back to This Week in Army Football. Army and Temple coming up on Saturday. Noon kick time from Mikey Stadium. The game is sold out. 10 a.m. airtime across the Army Sports Network with the Army Football Tailgate Show broadcasting live along Black Knight's Alley, and Army coming off the big win at Air Force. 20-17, the walk-off win on the final play, the 27-yard field goal from Dawson Jones. And Dawson Jones we've talked about a lot in the special teams. How about James Wagenseller? Jabril Williams downing that punt inside the 5-yard line. And how about in the second half? And we could see it from the booth that Air Force put, 9-10 men at the line of scrimmage. Two things I'd like you to talk about. Your punt team pointing at the players they felt were going to be needed to be tracked, rushing it, and Wagenseller giving you that step and a half into the kick, and he got a beauty off.
He did. James had such a great game, and he's done such a terrific job for us. He's got a big leg and long levers. He is an outstanding punter. So two different plays. The one where we downed it at the 2-yard line. We took our punt team out there. We had a fairly short field. And in fact, talk about going for it on fourth down. There was some thought there on 4th and 6 to go for it there. And we chose not to. Just the way the game was going, didn't feel great about a 4th and 6 shot. And so we sent the punt team out there, and James was able to hold the ball just a little bit longer. When they leave their defense out there, which they did on that play, maybe anticipating a fake, there's not a lot of rush. So we were able to really hold up the guys at the line of scrimmage for another half second. He held the ball just for a little bit and kind of lobbed it down there. And once again, Jabril Williams on special teams shows up, makes a great play, catches it in the air at the 2-yard line, and puts them in tough field position. And then there was another one, the one you're talking about where they brought the pressure. We were backed up in our own territory. And they had us outnumbered to one side. So we brought the gunner in, which happened to be Jabril Williams, and then the guys kind of had to sort it out. The guys in the shield and the guard that was there and Jabril on who was going to take who, and they did a really nice job. We protected it really well, and that's the one where he sent it sailing.
Just a great job by James Wagenseller and Jabril Williams, right? Since we've had him on the show, right? 3 straight starts for Jabril, and someone who, he's earned it, right? He's made his career on special teams, still doing it now as a firstie, and now 3 straight starts in the secondary.
He's quietly having a really good senior season, and we've seen so much out of him on special teams, even from his freshman year, blocking punts and recovering punts for touchdowns and those kinds of things, and the play we just mentioned on the punt team. But now he's starting at corner and really doing a great job. He's trained really hard. Coach Dixon, his position coach, does a super job of preparing those guys. And that is a really, really hard position to play in college football. The athletes that those guys have to face and see, and the space that they have to play in. It's a very difficult position to play, and he's doing a really nice job.
It's Army and Temple coming up on Saturday. More from Army head coach Jeff Monken in just a moment, right here at the Cadet First Class Club on This Week in Army Football, right here on the Army Sports Network from Learfield. And welcome back to This Week in Army Football. One more segment with the Army football coach, Jeff Monken. Army and Temple coming up on Saturday afternoon. Jeff, another sellout. How about the job that's been done this year? Ticket sales sold out for Temple and Tulsa. Tickets going fast. It's going to be a great atmosphere.
It is awesome to know we're going to have a sellout. This will be the second one this year, right? Did we not have one the last time out?
Yeah, we had one the last time out, but then it was close against North Texas. It's been a lot of really good crowds.
Fantastic, and so I'm excited. This is a really good team, and we're going to need all the help we can get. And so it's awesome to know we're going to have a lot of Army fans out there to cheer us on. So hopefully it's good and loud, and they make some noise at the moments they need to when the other team's on offense.
You know, it seems like we've gone through the entire roster of your team from last weekend's game against Air Force. Got a couple more, though, I need to mention, and it was a great return for Cody Harris-Miller. We hadn't seen him since the Tarleton game, a lower body injury, which really affected him from the tail end of last year. I don't know how he came back. Look, the score sheet says 2 tackles. It was because of him, your linebackers were able to make the amount of tackles they did, and your secondary. How did he do it, Cody Harris-Miller?
Give that guy credit. He's really, really tough. He wanted to play in this game so bad, and he had that game circled on his calendar and kept saying, "I'm going to be back for that game. I'm going to be back for that game." And you know, Tim Kelly, our head athletic trainer, and Jackie McCann and the whole staff down there, they just did a great job of just chipping away at it and slowly getting him back to health. And I never anticipated he'd be able to play as many snaps as he did on Saturday. I think he played almost 50 snaps, and that's really tough to do, especially not having practiced full speed until just last week. To have the conditioning, to do it at altitude, all of those things, and he is just a rough, tough guy, and I'm so glad he's on our team. He just played a heck of a football game.
Jeff, with the 3 games coming up in 4 weeks, and then, of course, a couple of weeks before Navy, is there a plan maybe to manage Cody Harris-Miller a little bit, knowing he gave you a lot out there against Air Force, and he's probably not at 100%, but really wanting to keep him effective the rest of this year?
Sure, we need him to stay healthy. That position has been banged up and beat up. We've had a lot of injuries at the nose guard position, and so we've actually played some of those ends in there at nose and just trying to spell the guys to keep all of them healthy. But we're going to have to watch his reps. But there's just a lot of guys up front that are really playing really hard and tough. Jack Latour, gosh, what a terrific guy that is. I mean, he is tough and rugged and strong and plays really, really hard. I mean, I see some of the plays he made on Saturday, just running people down on the perimeter. Jack Bowsam, just the effort that he plays with. Dylan Stowers, he has improved so much over the course of this season. He's playing really good football. We mentioned Sean Gray, who recovered the fumble. I
felt great for him.
Yeah, for sure. And so a lot of those guys. Many of those guys are veteran players, and they're playing good, tough football.
We got 1 minute left, and Jeff, the last position group that I can't believe we've gone the whole show without mentioning them. They're a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award, which they won 1 year ago, the first non-major conference school to win it. Your offensive line and that group has now become an expectation each week, what they've been able to do.
That's a good group, and they're improving as the season goes along. There's 2 starters off of that group from a year ago, Brady Small and Paulo Generali, and those guys are 2 good players. But Will Jeffcoat is just playing really good football, and the 2 guys with the least amount of experience, Henry Appleton and Teddy Williams, they're improving. Each week they're playing better. Henry is he's really, really been playing some good football, and give Teddy credit. He was sick on Thursday and Friday, walking around the hotel, looked like, as they say, death warmed over. He's got a mask on. White face. He looks like he's getting ready to pass out, and he just played his butt off.
And I love when you shift and you bring the 2 tackles. They're next to each other a lot when they're playing in the formations. That's great to see as well. And they've both had terrific years. Jeff, Hey, good luck on Saturday against Temple. I'm glad we were able to completely go over the win over Air Force, but Temple on Saturday, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, let's hope we play our best, Rich. We need to get this one. It's a big game for us.
That's Army head coach Jeff Monken. This broadcast, an exclusive presentation of Army West Point Sports Properties, a property of Learfield under the broadcasting rights granted by the United States Military Academy at West Point. This broadcast copyrighted. Any rebroadcast or reuse of this presentation prohibited without the express written consent of the Academy and Army West Point Sports Properties. The general manager is Steve Tucker. Jimmy, Skyler, Bob keeping us on the air. We'd like to thank Mike McCartney, Brett Rory, and Zach Hoover keeping us on YouTube as well. We'd like to thank our special guest, Kale Helms, the Army quarterback. It's Army and Temple coming up on Saturday, noon kick time from Mikey Stadium, airtime 10 a.m. across the Army Sports Network. For Army head coach Jeff Monken, Rich DeMarco saying so long. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Have a great rest of your Monday night, everyone.